and welcome to another session of Webinar Wednesday. Today, we're doing an Ask Us Anything session where you can ask us any questions related to selling on Amazon or sourcing from India. My name is Meghla, and I'm joined by Margaret and Kevin. Hi, Margaret, Kevin. How are you guys doing?
Good, thanks, Meghla. How are you today?
Doing well, doing well. So,
really well, Meghla. Yeah. Thank you for asking. Yeah.
Have you had your fill of golf or your quota of golf?
I'm actually been given 7 days off.
He's injured.
I had a cortisone jab this morning.
Okay.
In my hip, so I can't play for 7 days.
Oh, we'll try to keep you entertained and busy.
See, you got my attention for 7 days, 7 whole days.
Awesome. So yeah, guys watching, if you have any questions about sourcing from India or selling on Amazon, whether it's related to listing optimization or images or listing your products or product selection, feel free to type your questions into the comments box wherever you're watching from, whether it's LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook. Type in your questions and we will try to answer them. We do have a couple of topics that we want to cover. So, Mark, do you want to get started maybe by talking a little bit about product descriptions and A+ content?
Yes, look, I just want to clarify this. I've done some sort of notes on it in Monday Musings, but it's a little bit hard to sort of condense into a couple of paragraphs. So for those of you who don't understand how this works, when you are not brand registered and you fill out your title, your bullet points, the next thing is you fill in is product description. Now, at the moment with product description, the best way to make it look attractive if you're not brand registered is to write it out with nice paragraphs and bullets and punctuation, so it would look like a display story. But to do that and make it work in Amazon, you have to use HTML, which is a code. And if you go back to the Monday Musings, I've put all the shortcuts in there to do that. But that is the best way to, I suppose, have your listing looking as good as you can, because once people scroll down the page past your bullets and past a few Amazon ads, sits your product description. If you don't use HTML, you'll just get 2, 3 or 4 lines of just a string of sentences with just, no paragraphs, no nothing. So it doesn't look very good at all. But what I really want to talk about is once you do your A+ content. So look, Amazon is really moving down the sort of road of being brand registered. I think what they're trying to do with all these things is to get everyone to be private labeled and brand registered. They just don't want little ad hoc sellers just doing bits and pieces. So I think if you're not brand registered, it's time to start looking at it, and we'll come back to the accelerator program in a minute. So what happens is with A+ content, there's templates and modules in the back end of Amazon for you to choose from, and you can set it up with your logo at the top, your brand story. You can have a great big paragraph and images of your brand story. If you're sourcing from villages in India, you can put pictures of the villages, all about that. Anything that you want to, sell your brand, depending on what you're selling. So that's a great opportunity. Then you can go down and there's probably, I think I've got about 10 or 12 images in mind, but you can have little images, big images. It's just a matter of picking which templates, and you can mix and match and move them around till you get what you want. And what you would do is go and have a look at all the other brands in your niche and just see how they've got it set up. Don't copy them, because you can make yours look a little bit different by just having different sized images or in different ways. But, and in there you can put assembly instructions, care instructions, your warranty. You can put the uses of it, and maybe it's a product that you use for 3 or 4 different things. So have images of all the different uses and a bit of a story about why or each use. So there's so much more opportunity to do this and do it with great photos. And the only thing is you can do the photos yourself on your camera. It's a lot easier than doing the actual Amazon images, because it doesn't get zoomed in and out. So you're not going to have a problem so much if you use just off your phone. I've done quite a few on my phone, and they come up quite good, because if you use the Amazon Studio app, Photo Studio app on your phone in the Amazon app, it does sort of come up suitable for Amazon. And so those photos are quite, suffice. So if you've got a lot of photos, you can sort of use a couple of the ones you've got in your actual images, but then you can go and make yourself some other ones of different uses and stuff as well without going to too much expense. It's more so getting this big brand story across. So, but once you've completed that, and you have to then submit it. Now, Amazon usually take a couple of days or so to approve it. They might come back, and if you've put a naughty word in there like environmentally friendly or something that they don't like, they'll tell you to take it out because we're not allowed to use those words anymore. So once that's approved, it will go live. Now, at this point, and this point only, can you then go into your old product description, and you don't have to have it in the nice HTML anymore. You can just basically take what's in there out. I would copy and paste it in case you ever need to come back to it later and file it in a file, but you can just basically put keywords and keyword phrases in this section, and you can have 2,000 characters, so it's huge. So I suggest you go back to your when you sort of first did your product research, and you should have all those good keywords. Check that they're still relevant, and or some other ones that have popped in, and just put all those keywords that you haven't got anywhere else in your bullets or your title in there, because they do rank, and I prove that. I've just gone in and put words that I haven't had, or I found in a review or something that somebody's put it in there, and give it a day, and you'll find that once you put in your ASIN and that keyword, you will be actually coming up, you'll be optimized for that keyword. So it's a really good way, because for those of you who are just starting out, there used to be this fantastic section called subject matter, which had about 50 characters in each, and in there you could put some really good long tail phrases, and then if you were smart about it, you could put a couple of words at the start and a couple of words at the end and get 3 or 4 phrases out of that one line. And there were 5 of those, and they were fantastic for getting all those long tail phrases that you can't really get in your title because it just doesn't look right, and sometimes it's a bit hard to put some of them even into your bullet points. But so that was the best place to put them. So now I've transferred all that into this area, and then when I get to the end, I've still got heaps of characters. I just go back and put all the keywords, all the main keywords out of my title, because if it's there again and again, the algorithm might just keep looking for it and find it 2 or 3 times and go, hey, this is really a good word, and take it. So I think, but you've just got to be careful and make sure if for some reason your A+ content went down or something happened, that immediately you would have this whole line of string of keywords in your actual listing. So you've just got to keep your eye, and it's another check. Every day have a look at your listing, make sure that it's still showing as it should, because Amazon can decide, there a couple of months ago, they were actually putting the product description as well as the A+ content on some people's listings. So they had all this mumbo jumper, and some people went to the trouble of changing it all, taking it all out, and then 2 days later they stopped it again. So it's just, and also check on your phone, check on the app on your phone, because occasionally they'll stick it back in there. I don't know what they play at with all these things, but it's just, you've just got to be on the ball with your listing. But I think that is something that people will find. You can get so many more keywords because there's nowhere much else now, because once you've done your title, your bullets, and the 250 keywords in your actual back end, there's nowhere else to add any more keywords. So I think it's a really good idea to do that. Then with the A+ content, the other good thing about having A+ content is behind or every image you put in, you can put keywords in there, but that's for the Google search, not for the Amazon search. So they can also, behind every image, you can put, keyword phrases, things that people would search for in there as well behind. And if you've got 10 images, and I think it's 50 characters a line, so you've got a lot more keywords you can put in there. So I think, if you get the A+ content up, brand registry, it's making it worthwhile. And I think that's why Amazon is encouraging people and making things harder to do. Otherwise, they're taking all the opportunities away that you could put different keywords and attributes in. You could put uses in there, it's intended uses, all those words, anything you can think of can go in there. So I think that's
totally makes sense. And you could put it in a way that it still makes sense, like it's still readable instead of just stuffing keywords, so that in case your A+ content goes down for some reason and the description shows it's not just, a bunch of keywords, but you could still string them into meaningful sentences, right? And then have the keywords.
Some of it you can, but I end up just adding words and thinking I'll live with it when they take it down. I've actually got an old product description. I save all mine in a file. And that's something just saying to people, once your listing goes live, go in and copy and paste into a document your title, your bullets, all your back end, because one day something will go wrong and they'll say, oh, we'll just take your listing down and put it back up. And when they put it back up again, it's not all there and you have to reconstruct it. Happened to me about 2 or 3 weeks ago with one of our listings, and I don't know, I can't remember what went wrong, but it was something stupid. And they said, oh, no, we'll just delete the listing and re-add it. And I said, are you sure it's not going to come back? Oh, yes. Oh, no, maybe sometimes it doesn't after it wasn't there. So always with every listing, keep a hard copy of it somewhere on your computer so you can always reinstate it very quickly if you need to. So that's something that's really important.
Yeah. Good. That's
Absolutely.
very wise, that actually, Margaret. I do recall that week when something went down.
Yeah, I remember that.
It was just but it's just so much information to run away, even for a VA like me. You know, it's just so much information to go.
I mean, we'd
to
lost
recover and go and
everything.
find.
Even all the dimensions and the colour and all those things in the back end, everything was gone. All the detail screen was gone. Everything was gone. All we ended up with was the title and the bullets. Nothing else came back. And when I said, but you told me, oh, sometimes we have a problem. And I thought,
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. But
the other thing was
the Amazon world.
But the other thing, Megla, it was a good job I got good memory.
Yeah. Let's see who's here. Kulbahar is saying hi. Hi, Kulbahar. How are you doing?
Hello, Kulbahar.
Good evening.
Facebook.
Good evening.
Somebody in the US, I reckon, that one.
Yeah, somebody in the US. What you could do is go to this URL, StreamYard.com/Facebook, and give StreamYard access to your profile so that we can see who you are. Otherwise, we don't see your name. Okay, so yeah, everybody watching, if you have any questions about sourcing from India or selling on Amazon in general, type them in the comments now. We are here to address your questions. So the other thing, Mark, that we also wanted to talk about, and we've been getting a lot of questions in the group, and you also did a Monday Musings post about this, and this is returns, refunds, replacements. So do you want to maybe talk a little bit about that, what's happening in that aspect?
My pet hate subject. At the moment, I think Amazon is just trying to make it so much harder for us to have any contact whatsoever with the customer. We now, I think it's next week it comes into play, but you used to be able to download a sales report where you could get the email of your customer as a last resort for some of the customers if they had their email. That is now stopping, so there's no way there. And I'm finding quite often now, if I get a return or a refund, and if it's not as described, which is a really great comment they usually use quite a lot, I have a draft letter that I send back to people and just say, we take pride in our business and can you help me? And so other people aren't dissatisfied with the product, what's not as described. We've got this in our bullets and we've got a description, and I go through all the videos we have and explain all these to them. And, nobody ever replies to me. But the reason I keep it is because there is now the voice of the customer on Amazon. And I'm still trying to work out, and I can't find anybody who knows how this actually works, but what appears to happen is people can, I don't know whether they have to buy a product. I'm not even sure if they have to buy it first, but excuse my dog in the background, the garbage truck's out the front, is what happens is that people just ring up and say, oh, I can't get it to go together, or I can't open it, or some comment, and you don't actually know who said it, what the actual problem is. You can't contact the person to offer them, if it's something you could give them a new product with whatever you want to do to appease that issue. There's no way, because you can't match it with anything. You can't even really match it with the refunds. I'm finding that, and I actually wrote to somebody one day thinking I had the right person, but it wasn't that person. It happened the same day, but it must have been just something that was hanging around. So you've just got to be very careful, because what happens with this voice of the customer, they then it builds up every day. So if you get 5 returns and the people say it's not as described 5 times, well, then you've got virtually risk of your listing going down, because what they're saying is that your listing isn't as described and you've got to fix it. But I mean, sometimes it's impossible to fix, because you can only describe, with dimensions and pictures and videos and everything else. So it's just becoming, there seems to be no consultation with us whatsoever about it. They don't even think, and I've had a couple this week where people have actually said to Amazon, this product has been delivered to a customer, opened and sent back in and resent out. And I've had that twice this week, but I don't know who the person is. I don't know anything, how long ago it happened, which warehouse it's come from. I know nothing. And there's nothing you can do about it, but you risk, once again, being closed down for that. So
But
I think...
that's like all of a sudden in the last 2 or 3 weeks, it's like this nasty voice of the customer.
Yeah.
That's come from sort of nowhere. Isn't it?
Yeah, there's a lot more complaints going through voice, and I know a lot of people are saying that, there's nothing that they can do about it, but all of a sudden they're all getting pinged with these comments, and we don't know whether it's people are getting a product on Alexa and they can just say something to answer Amazon. We have no idea where it's coming from, whether you can just ring up, whether you have to buy the product. I don't even know that. It's not very... easy to find this out. It's an Amazon secret. And the other thing is, whereas before, when you had like a review that came back and they said something was wrong or something was missing or whatever, you could go back to that customer and respond against under the review and say, no, look, this shouldn't be, or this is how it works, or whatever it was. That's our right to do that has been taken away. Our right also, there's the reviews in the actual listing, but there's also the customer comments that sit behind in your brand. And they also, now you used to be able to write a comment on there as well and say, can you give me more information? Can you send me a copy of the damage if it's damaged or whatever? But you can't do that either. So we are basically finding it very hard to write back to people. Now, when I go to write back to people now, I often find as well, for some reason, usually the ones I want to write to because I want to say something about their what they've raised, is that they have a shadow dot and you can't reply to them, which means they've refused to take any communications from Amazon. So it's becoming a lot more difficult, and I don't know where it's going to end, because we're supposed to be able to give customer service, and that's all Amazon's about. But Amazon won't let us give them one iota of customer service, because in a couple of instances we would have probably given another product to the people, but because we don't know who they are or if it's true, or you don't even get a photo to prove, what if it's, I got one the other day that was broken in half, and there's no way knowing this thing could break in half unless you got an axe to it. But I can't say, well, send me the photo and I'll send you a replacement. I mean, that's what normally you would do. If somebody has got a genuine complaint, it's fine, but they're just believing the customer at any length at the moment. They're just not letting us sellers have a say. So I think you're just going to have to get used to it and try your best, but it's very hard to match anything up. And quite often I just find that the people's names don't even match. Sometimes I'll get the order number, and then the other person, it's not the same name. So I'm just getting, very confused with how Amazon's working with all these things at the moment.
Yeah. So Opal has joined us. Hi, Opal. How are you doing? And somebody from Ecuador.
Oh, right.
Cool. So
actually, one other thing, Megan, can I go back over this? I just wanted to say also is there's another section, because there's refunds that come under orders. If you go down under the order tab, down 3, you'll see refunds. Click across to FBA refunds, and that's where you'll see where people have actually been given a refund back straight away. And it'll usually have, because I think they must have like an idiot sheet to tick, either not as described on website. I can't even think what else they tick, but they tick most of the time. Yeah, wrong size, all these things, what are those things? So they just tick one of those to get a refund. But there's also a thing called replacements. Now, with the refunds, you can actually see, because if you watch that listing, and I watch mine virtually every day to see if everything has been returned, because if it's not returned within 45 days, you're entitled to a reimbursement from Amazon. And we would get probably, 20 or 30% of ours who don't ever get returned. So we get our money back from Amazon, less the FBA fee. So it still costs you, but it's only your FBA fee. And so that happens all the time where people just, I think, no, if they don't send it back. I don't understand. I've heard that people can get about 10 of those a year for nothing if they don't return them until they get a few. Amazon don't do anything with it. But there's also then a thing called replacements. And in that one, you don't get to see, and that the only way you can find that is you need to go into your reports tab and then scroll down to fulfillment and then scroll down again and you'll see replacements. When you get in there, it's just got, or you can pick the last 30 days or something. It'll just have the product and a code, and it'll be, I can't remember, I think it's 0 for other, 2 for defective, 5 for something missing, and 10, I can't remember, but there's about 15 codes. They're all in the Monday Musings, all the codes. And those people just get given a free product. They don't ever seem to have to send the return back, the first one back as a return, because there's nowhere to track that or see if it's ever been returned. And so they virtually, and they don't have to send a photo to prove that it's, whatever they're saying. But if you're smart and play the system, you just go in and say it's damaged and you get another one for free and you've got 2. So you've just, and I've noticed there on the increase as well, like we used to get one of those every 6 months. We now get them every month. So it just seems to be becoming more and more. And I think Amazon must be very lax when people ring up. Oh, yeah, sure. You got a problem? We'll send you another one.
Yeah.
Not send us a photo or, give us a right to reply or, to do something. So so that's the whole situation there. So I think it's something you've got to keep your eye on, keep lists on, and if you can, write to the customers, and you can go back into Amazon's messages and see every message you get sent. So if you ever get pulled down for, say, not as described, you can go back to Amazon, and CJ was telling me this, you should keep as much info as you can. So you can say, I've written to these 100 people and all ask them what's wrong with my listing, why isn't it as described? And nobody's come back to me, so there can't be an issue. So, so you've got some proof that you've attempted to resolve the issue and find out what's wrong with it and things. So it's worth doing it, and if you have it set up, it takes you 2 minutes to send that, and you'll be very surprised if you get one. If I ever get a reply, I get a bit excited.
In terms of returns, what is the average return rate? What's normal, and when should
10 to 12% is this. In an article I've read that Amazon put out, that they average 10 to 12% of all sales being returned. Now, obviously, some products are going to have a higher return rate than others, but I mean, some things I think, God, they surely wouldn't send that back. But to have that high return rate, I dare say that most products at some point must get applied for a refund. So it is a very, very high return rate. But I think you've got to build that into your costings. It's a cost of doing business. It's like if you've got a shop and you have shoplifting. It's basically the same thing. Ask Kmart how much gets shoplifted out of their store in 12 months. So I think, so when you're looking at your costings, there's another column that you've got to account for is about 5%. Because of that 10 or so percent, you'll probably find that a lot gets put back into stock, which is another conversation we love, because then somebody takes it, rips it apart, uses it. I actually got a comment a few weeks ago that said this was dirty and used.
And that was a review? Was it in the review?
No, they all go into this voice of the customer thing. Yeah, and it just said dirty and used. The product arrived dirty and used. So obviously it's been bought by someone, they didn't like it, didn't want it, whatever. Send it back. We used it for a party, whatever they did, and then send it back. And the warehouse man's gone, oh, that looks brand new, back on the shelf. So you do get some that get returned. So I think you've got.
Here's a question. Is there any way to move all returns to either dispose or ship to a 3PL?
No. Amazon. There's two things Amazon do. If they a return comes in and they think it looks fine, they will just return it to stock. It's on your returns report. If you look down, it will say sellable, which means if it's sellable, they've just taken it and put it back into stock. The other thing that quite often happens is that Amazon will take it, and if the return comes back and it's, say, the packaging is damaged, they will actually take that and they will sell that through their warehouse on your listing as used, and they'll sell it for $10 off or $15 off. So there's two ways that things happen, but the worst one, and I hate, is when I see sellable. I prefer to never see that product again, because the chances of somebody having it, not opening it, ripping it to pieces, playing with it or whatever, and then chucking it back in a box and sending it back in are more so likely than somebody who's just got it and gone, oh, I'll send that back. So I think that's where, and there's nothing we can do about it. There's no function where you can choose that. And I don't know why we can't. Because, I mean, to me, I'd prefer all those to go back to my we use Manal Shah, who we send all our returns back to check them and see what's wrong with them. And I find, and I know I've read posts from other people who have places that look at their returns, and sometimes you might find there is absolutely nothing wrong with the ones that they send back to you. Sometimes it might have stickers on the box because they might have, the carriers put stickers all over it, but you're supposed to get returned or get a reimbursement for that for carrier damage, which 6 or 12 months ago, we used to get probably 50% of our returns were carrier damaged. I've noticed now Amazon give you about 10%. So obviously the carriers started getting hit for all the costs. So that's swung around in our disfavour as well.
But like we even put tabs on our boxes, don't we? That sort of like, it's once the box is open.
Yeah, some of our products we've got like a clear disc that we put, and so you have to cut that to open the box. But then, how do you tell one of the 1,000 or million little men standing in each warehouse, has that seal been broken? Or you can't talk to the customer when they complain. It'd be nice if the customer said, this looks used, if you could say to them, when you got it, was the seal cut? Because then you've got a proof that it's not your manufacturer that's done it. It hasn't come from your factory dirty and used, like, the supplier's had dinner off my plate and then thrown it in the box. I mean, it just doesn't make sense. But I mean, you've just got to, but there's no, to me, like having like a tamper-proof thing on the box is a great idea. But the problem is you can't go back and dispute that with anyone. So if it goes into a warehouse, you can't say to them, you've put that back in, was the tab broken? Because, where are they going to find that again? And if it goes out to a customer, you can't ask the customer anymore. You couldn't get, like, if somebody wrote a review, this was used, you could go back and say, was the tab broken in the comments? Well, you can't do that. So, it is getting very hard. So,
yeah.
And what's
Raj's comment was,
what Raj just said then, that is totally true. You must have, how many people in the Amazon world must have products going round and round and round in sort of circles. It sort of would make,
Yeah, no,
I heard someone. I heard someone say recently that you could maybe put a note on the disc, when you have the seal, that if this seal is broken, the product is unusable or something like that. I mean, would something like that?
Who's going to read it? Like they can't read my bullets and my headline and everything else. Are they going to read a little disc? Come on. Do you know what I mean? I don't think
you can't even read sizes.
Like you can put, I've got one product and I've got the dimensions in the headline and everything, and it's smaller than I thought it'd be.
Yeah.
Hello? You know what I mean? And that's in bold, and I've got it in several spots and all sorts of things. But, so to me, this little, inch sort of piece of plastic with something written on it, I just think that it's probably not even worth the heartache of putting them on because...
But if anyone's got any real good ideas around that,
we're open to somebody telling Jeff we need to fix this.
Right. As we're talking here, our Telegram group, the PPC Telegram group, is really going off. There's so many messages coming in. I'm sure, Kev, you're reading the messages too. There's a party going on over there, a PPC party. Looks like somebody's had a win and they've been sharing messages and emojis and everything. So I'm kind of getting distracted by that.
No, I was a good boy. I left my phone in the other room.
There you go. Well, you've been told off, Neela.
many times.
Right.
Yeah.
So the other thing that, Mark, you always talk about is costings, right? Uh, but before, let's see, we've got one question from Jackie. Hello, lovely people. On this rainy Melbourne day, do you use inserts in all of your products?
Of sorts.
Yeah, well, we don't always put them in as a loose piece of paper because I think that's probably another thing that could get lost. We have if we've got a display box that you can lift up the lid and it throws you in the face, we have like a nice circle piece of paper with whatever we want to say written on that. So we can actually capture their eye when they're looking at it. But if you've got something that's probably, I don't know, just all sort of packed up in a box, you're going to have to really put an insert in. We do have some assembly instructions with inserts, but I don't even know whether they read them because, they still write and say that they can't figure out how to assemble it, or, there's always an issue. So I think, but I think it's a good idea. And I've actually started, you're not listening, Jeff, I've started breaking TOS and putting my email address in the box. Please contact me if you have an issue. Because I think they've gone.
No, please don't turn this into Negative Wednesday, will you?
No. But I think, I think people have got to try and turn this so we can beat them. And I think these things like putting, and I know it is against TOS to supposedly have your email address and direct traffic away from Amazon, but the only way you're going to be able to ever communicate with a customer now is if you can get your email in that product, because 90% of every other way we had of contacting them have been taken away from us. So I've bitten the bullet and taken the risk, and I'm doing that now. But
I think that should be okay because, if you look at any other big brand that's sold on Amazon, like Nike or any of the bigger brands, they will always have an email address or customer service address or something like that. So, I think in terms of, giving a phone number or an email address, as long as you're not telling them, first of all, to give a positive review or any review, I think that is very, very risky and definitely against TOS. But if you just include an email address, because like for me, I even have the email address on the packaging and the address and email, the company address and the email address in case anybody wants to, has any issues or something. So, I don't know. I've heard people say not to put an email address at all, but I don't see how that can be an issue when so many, like thousands of brands that are selling on Amazon are doing it. They have their, their instruction booklets or warranty cards, guarantee cards, and of course the email address is going to be there.
Well, I think on those, I don't see how they can stop you. I think you've just got to be careful. Never, ever put in an insert and mention a review. I think that would kill you. So if you're going to ask for a review on an insert, I think that's a real dangerous situation. But I think
you're putting that information there as sort of business.
Exactly.
The bone of contention in Amazon's view is asking out and out for review, isn't it? There's always been around asking for a review. So,
well, you would hope so, because they claim that the customer is their customer, not your customer. But to me, they can't give customer service because they don't know what they're talking about with our product. So to me, I think we should have the right to be able to, if a customer's got a query, like how does this work, or how do I open this, or how do I do whatever, that they can quickly send us an email. But the thing is, Amazon can't read that email because it's not in their system and they don't like that. So, but I find the email where you can email back through the return section, which is the only place you can ever get hold of a customer, is if you, I don't know, they just don't ever reply. I think we've probably had two in the whole time we've been selling on Amazon that have actually come back to me through that system. People just don't. So I don't know whether Amazon scan the email and go, not telling them that, and it doesn't get sent out, or whether the people just don't read them. We'll never know that. We'll never know whether they actually get sent out or not.
Right. So Opal is saying, oh my God, that is so true. PPC is on fire. So this is about the Telegram group, PPC Telegram group. And Sarah is saying, Andy, it's Andy's party. He's got good
Andy's
news.
party.
Congratulations. Congratulations, Andy.
What's the good news, Andy? Come and tell us.
Opal, what's the good news? PPC La La Land. Prabhu is saying hi. Okay, here's a question from Raj. Any recommendation for a VAT service provider in the UK and EU?
Avask.
Yeah. Raj, have you tried to talk to Avask? A couple of people from Avask are in the group. If you want to, message them or tag them in a post, you can do that. You can contact Tom, right? Was it Tom? Mark, do you remember? Tom Meeks, yeah.
Tom Meeks. And there's a couple of other young gentlemen that we did a viz with one time.
I remember that.
Yeah. Julia. Julia's from the marketing team.
Yeah.
So, but Raj, I think Avask is probably the best for this.
Absolutely. That'd be the ones to go to.
Yeah. Prabhu is saying hi.
Hello,
okay, I launched my first product and have my email address attached to my product. I have an insert too, handwritten. Oh, wow.
Nice.
Very good.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really nice.
Do you get any emails?
Yeah. Okay, so the other thing that you always talk about, Mark, is costings and profits and, are you profitable? So do you want to maybe... your favorite subject. So let's talk about that.
Look, I think at the moment people have got to, because of the inventory limit hasn't been lifted for many, many people yet. I think unless you're a really, really big seller, you probably haven't got unlimited inventory and can go straight into Amazon with a complete shipment. So you've got to now factor in, on top of all the other Amazon costs that we'll go through in a moment, but you've got to now take into account that you've got to put that shipment, instead of going direct into Amazon, on your shipping quote, whereas now that shipping quote takes you to the port or to your 3PL, and then you've got to pay the 3PL to put the product into their warehouse, then to pick it and pack it and send it back out, and then you've got to pay Amazon or UPS to ship that product from the 3PL to an Amazon warehouse. Now, look, depending on the size of your product and size of your cartons, etc., it can be up to $2 or $3 a product, even $4 if you've got even a large standard size product. So that is a huge extra cost to people. So I think now when you're doing your costings, if you're starting out afresh, that's another column that you need to add to your costings, is the cost of a 3PL. I mean, it's good in some ways because come Q4, you do, to have, thousands of products in Amazon, unless they're going to turn over in that month. The storage fee in Amazon is 4 times as much in October, November, December as it is the rest of the year. So having it in a 3PL has an advantage in that quarter, but I think it probably will balance itself out for the rest of the year because of all the additional cost of putting it in and out of the 3PL and the transport to the 3PL. So that's a big one that's really just sort of, I suppose, raised its head since October last year, that and it's pretty hard now sometimes for people to add that extra $3 or $4, depending on your niche, to your product. But you don't want to be carrying all these extra costs, because we've also got at the moment, as Shamishka said the other day on the webinar, that the shipping costs are going up. And it's not just India, it's China. I think China's a lot more expensive. Their shipping costs have gone up as well. So, you've probably got to allow an extra $1 or $2 for shipping as well. So you've really got to be adding another $5 or something to your product. So if you've got a very cheap product, it's just going to kill your margin down to nothing. So I think the biggest thing when you're looking for a product is to make sure that there is enough money left for you. Now, in the old days, business days, I've worked in different industries, and we used to always say a third for me, a third for the product, and a third for your running costs. So, if you're a chef in a kitchen or something, it'll be all your bills and your waitresses and all that, your food, and a third for you. And it sort of works the same in Amazon, but not if you're selling something that you're buying for $2 and selling for 10 or 12, or buying for 5 and selling for 20. Because there is nowhere near enough margin for all the Amazon fees. The reason is, if you've got, say, a product that's nearly up to standard size, so it might be 17 by 13 by 7 inches, so it's nearly the highest fee for Amazon, which is about $7.50 or something. If you've got a product that's $7.50 for the Amazon fee, even if you're selling it for $15, if they don't care whether if it's that size, it doesn't matter whether it's $15 or whether it's $100. So you've got to take into account, it's a bit like a sliding scale that you've got to get your head around. And to me, the nice sweet spot is selling something at around $40. Then you can do the third. If you're much underselling for $40, unless you're buying something for $2 or $3 and selling it for $40, but if you're buying it for $40, you probably find it's about $10 it's costing you. By the time you put your shipping and all the other costs on, you're going to be even struggling now with all these extra fees at $40. As you get up, if you're selling something for $100, you don't need that third either, because you're not going to get. So you've got to sort of look at it individually, but the sweet spot is around that $40, $45 mark sale price, and then it should be around about a third. And
then the $40 mark is also a good price point in terms of impulse buying. Because if it's, I think, over $50 or so, then people kind of perceive it as being expensive. But anything below $50, you're like, okay.
Yeah. So, but I think, a lot of people think, oh, well, if I just buy something and sell it for $15, I'm okay because I'm only paying $2 for it. But, if you've got if it's big, look, if it's an envelope and you're only, I think the minimum fee on Amazon is about $4 anyway. So you're still up for $6 or so plus your $2 product and your shipping and your 3PL if you've got more in. So you're not going to make anything out of $20 or it's going to be a very high volume, so you're only going to make money on volume. So you're going to have to be selling, 1,000 a month or 2,000 a month to make any money. Whereas if you've got this $40 sweet spot and you can make yourself $10 a product, you don't have to sell as much of that. And I think coming out of India, it's not a garlic press; they're not mass produced, and you're not going to sell 1,000 of some of the products that we get out of India on a weekly or a monthly basis, because they're more specialised. They're more unique, and they're not for everyone. They're not an everyday item that people buy day in, day out. We're going into, I think, more beautiful decor products that are one-off purchases. It's not something that people are going to come back and buy every month or every 3 months on a cycle. Those sort of products you'd probably be a lot better off with your lower price, and because you've got that bigger turnover all the time, and that's the only way you're going to make money is by selling volume, which is a totally different sort of scenario, which also, then you've got to have a lot more stock on the go. So it takes a lot more managing as well for a new person. So with all that.
Also, I think when people reach out to their supplier and, when they do their costing initially, what are some things that people need to keep in mind while, trying to figure out how much to source a particular product for? I mean, you talked about the third, and also the multiplier and all, but then like how should we start? Should we first start by looking at what competitive products are selling at on Amazon, and then sort of work backwards and say, okay, this is how much I need to source this product at?
Look, what I do with my manufacturers, I've got a new product I'm thinking about. So I look at it and go, look, the going rate on Amazon is $49. So I can afford to pay about $14 for that. I know my calcs, and depending on the size. If it's standard size, if we're going into oversize, these margins are way out again, because if you go into oversize, and people who are new to this, if you've got a product that's 18 inches long, it's going to be, and the biggest standard size, it's going to be $7.50 or $7.70. If it goes to 18.5 or 18.2 inches even, it will be an extra $4 plus. So it'll go from $7.60 or $50 to about $11.50 to have it in Amazon. So you've got to bear that in mind as well. So that's something to look at. So when you're doing a new product, you've got to think about the size of the product, how much it's going to sell for on Amazon, so you can work back how much your costings, and obviously that size once again works out with your shipping, because if you're sending in 1,000 things that are the size of an envelope compared to 1,000 things that are the large standard size, you're going to be paying a lot more for shipping, because you could probably air freight the smaller ones in, whereas you'll have to, actually ship the others. So I think you've got to look at all that. But what I do is I go and do my exercises and look at products I want. And then I go to my supplier and say, this is what I want to do. Unless you can make it for $13 or $14, don't even waste your time making me a sample. If you think, I mean, they must have a bit of an idea. Then they'll go, oh, yeah, we'll make a sample and do the exact costing. But, yeah, we can do it for about that. But, I mean, some people, especially if you're new to this, you might think, oh, because you might have heard somebody say, oh, I bought that for $3 somewhere. You don't get too many products for $3. So I think you've got to sort of know in your mind what you need and go to your supplier. And instead of spending, you know, $50, $100 on a couple of samples, ask him straight out, do you think you can do this for 10 or 15, whatever your price? I mean, to me, to try and people go, oh, I don't want to supply, no, I want the best price. I mean, you might save 20 cents. Once you get into this game, 20 cents is nothing. That's a fifth of a click on PPC, one click. So to me, I just think that people are worrying about getting the best price by saving 20 or 30 cents with a supplier.
And talking about that point up front, Marg, it can ultimately save you so much time in you know, lots of time, lots of money, and just being up front. They would sort of know what the raw materials would go into that sort of product anyway. As a guess. But at the same token, if they go to sort of make it, you know, they sort of work other things out. But we've always had that approach, and we think it's a great approach to look at things like that.
Yeah, no, I think, you know, to me, you know, to save $1 or something and spend months on that is $1 on a product is nothing once you get into the advertising. Whether you're doing advertising on Google, you're doing Instagram, you're paying a lot of money for advertising.
Yeah, a lot more. And then once we do that, we will then go in and negotiate things like packaging. We would like lead time. We go in and negotiate all the you know, the bits and pieces that, so it makes your, you know, buying power a bit more because of, you know, the way you negotiate things.
And look, if,
you know,
usually
whether you're ex-works or FOB or whichever mode that you wish to pursue.
Yeah, and I think the other thing is too, if you go in and do all that exercise and you get it right and your product's selling really well and you go from ordering, you know, 1,000, you want the next order to be 3,000. Oh, I need 3,000. Can you do me a better price? I mean, to me, then you've got negotiating, or you know, I'm going to be ordering this every 3 months for the next year, or you know, once you can talk. But if you're just going in, which I know a lot of people are, and saying, I want 200. Who's going to negotiate on 200? I mean, come on. You know, to me, I'd be embarrassed to ask to negotiate on 1,000 on my first run, because to me, I haven't proven that I'm going to come back and buy it again, because until you might think it's going to sell well and it might look to you to be the best product in the world and you think it's going to be a goal, but until you go live on Amazon and see if the market in America likes your product and it takes off, you don't really know. So I think you worry about the negotiation once you've got a product that you can talk turkey with, and you can go and have a conversation about how much more you're going to buy, and that I'm going to be a permanent customer, and you know, and what else can you do for me? And you'll find you'll get treated so much better. Like, you know, I just think that way works better. It's a relationship. I don't know whether I would do that in China as much as I would in India, because it's a different culture, but it works fine in India.
Mark, do you think a minimum order value is a good negotiation tactic too?
I think it is. Look, when you're starting out, MOQ, if those of you who don't know, that's minimum order quantity. So that means you order 200 is the minimum. Some of the suppliers in India are very good and will do that. China, it's usually 1,000. But in India, they will say that because they want to get your business, but 200 is almost not worthwhile. Why you ship that in there, get into Amazon, spend some money on your PPC and your images, you're going to be out of stock in, you know, the first month. You're going to be out of stock for 3 or 4 months. You've got to start again. So to me, you either, and I think minimum order value, which means you might say, your supplier might say, but look, if you spend $6,000 with me or $8,000, depending on what sort of deals you do and what products you're looking at, but you might get 2 products or 3 products. So, you know, if you can do 2 products of 300 or 400 each, and you've got a bit more product to go live with, to do some advertising with, I mean, it's no point if you've got 200 products and you open up and you're spending $50 a day on PPC, you're not going to make anything out of that, because you're going to be lost money before you start. And that's okay if you're ranking, but then what happens when you run out of stock? You've got to let it sit there for 3 or 4 months while you wait for your next shipment. So to me, you're just virtually starting again. So I think if you can get maybe 2 products and do a higher MOQ, your shipping is going to be buckets cheaper. Like to ship 200 products is just so expensive unless it's something that can be air shipped. If you've got a sea freight 200, the fees and the costs of shipping will make that so expensive that the cost will just be crazy. Whereas if you're shipping, I hardly ever would ship under, 1,500, 2,000. I like to do about 3,000 a shipment, depending on what I'm doing and what I'm topping up with and things. But I would never ever ship under 1,000 because I know the fees, it would cost me so much, as well.
Yeah, and then suppliers also usually have a surcharge if you place a very small order, and if it's FOB, then they do have a surcharge of
$200 or something.
A couple of $100 to cover their document fees and everything.
Oh, and plus they've got to get it to port. I mean, to transport something.
The other thing I see constantly, on all the biz shows and all the factories that we talk to, a minimum order value. If you can look at some of the possibilities of bundling certain products, or even complementary type products as well, to use an MOV where you sort of got it's like any business. I mean, you're going to go into a business with $500. You're going to go into business with you've got to go armed. You've got to you've got to have a little bit of a war chest to start a business. Sure, people must be aware of that. And so if you've got like a small amount of like $6,000 to $8,000, at least you can negotiate minimum order value, which gives you maybe 4 or 5 different SKUs that you can actually sort of see, and you might be able to bundle, you might be able to complementary sort of products to get things sort of moving. But at least you're not relying on one SKU and only 200 of that one SKU. It doesn't give you much of a chance, to sort of edge your bets, so to speak, at the casino.
And most suppliers in India would offer a range of products that could be complementary. So, for example, let's say you're sourcing, I don't know, maybe something that's made of metal. Let's say, a metal tray, for example. You could do items that are complementary. So coasters, I don't know, metal coasters, no, probably not. But, similar, or kitchen cheese knives, for example, if you're doing... wooden trays, for example, cheese boards,
or things like, there's so many things that you can think of. Like, if you were selling, say, coffee mugs, that maybe you might do a matching, like, plate that you could serve with, or, just make a nice table setting. Think about it, just different.
What about the raw sugar? We could sell them the raw sugar.
Yeah. So there's lots of things. That you can think about, that you can, and then you get the benefit on Amazon. If you've got complementary products and people buy the 2 together, you get a thing called frequently sold together. And it shows, on every screen. If you roll down the screen on your product and you've got 2 complementary products and that people buy them occasionally together. So once again, the next person coming down goes, oh, hey, look at that. If I buy that, just say you had a cup and saucer and then you sold a plate. So they'd buy the cup and saucer and the plate then, because, oh, look at that set I can, do something with. So I think that's the way to look at it. If you're going to do MOV, get a couple of things. Don't buy, a pink mouse and a blooming, shoe or something stupid. Buy things that go together. So things that are going to be complementary. So you can get the benefit of this frequently bought together.
Things that complement each other.
Yeah, if you're doing a brand, it becomes part of your brand story, and then you've got a brand. But your brand can be something that's made of the same material. It can be in the same niche. It can be all in different niches and made of the same materials. It can be, there's so many different ways you can have a brand. It doesn't mean to say your brand has to be, a range of this brand of this type of cosmetic or something. Your brand can be any different thing that fits together. So, but don't just think of a brand as being like, cosmetics and they're all, all the same apricot flavour or something, just in different sizes. That's not really what it can be. You can build a brand out of many different, you could be just, if you were selling in China, you could just build it out of silicon. Your niche could be anything made out of silicon. So in India, it can be anything made out of metal. It can be anything made out of wood. If it looks similar, it doesn't have to be in the same niche. I mean, we've got, I don't know, 11, 12 products, and I think I'm in about 9 different niches or something. So, but they all complement each other and they all sell together through my storefront again, because you put them all in your storefront, people open your storefront. And that's another tip. In my A+ content, I have, in each brand, I put a photo of every product I sell in that brand in my top shot. So when people scroll down every one of my products, they can see the other products that match it. So that's another way you can cross-sell and get, frequently bought together. And Amazon love that, because then they're getting one click and they're getting a couple of sales. So, it's good. Yeah. So
cool. So guys, any more questions? Let's start wrapping up here. We're almost at the top of the hour. Any more questions? Okay, Prabhu's asking, how much does Avask charge and how long does it take to register VAT? Yeah, I think you need to reach out to them directly and check with them, because it depends on your specific situation and what services you need, because they have a range of services that they offer. In different countries might be different, so it's very complicated. I don't think we'll be able to answer
I think with all the different countries now and the EU and that the VAT is a lot more. If you're just sort of trying to manage all those yourself and send in all those returns every month, I think it's worth paying Avask to do it. After watching them and talking to them, I don't think I would take it on to try and do myself. I think I'd have more fines than I'd have wins.
Absolutely. Opal is saying no emails at all. This was to answer your previous question.
Oh, right. Yeah. So they don't talk to emails either.
Okay, cool. Well, looks like there are no more questions. Is there anything else that you wanted to cover, Mark, before we wrap up?
I don't think so. I think we've gone over most of the things that I find people, especially starting out, because there's so many little things to learn along the way. But I think bearing in mind, I think your biggest thing is getting your right product, the right keywords, products that got keywords to start with, and then make sure there's enough money in it to make a profit, because you don't want to do this for 12 months and find out at the end of the year that you're down the chute $500 instead of making 5,000 or 10,000, depending what you're outlaying. So I think you need to, and look, every business, if you bought a franchise, whatever you buy, don't expect to make a lot of money in the first year, because you've got extraordinary costs. You've got things like your brand registry, you've got your images. So you've got to take those into account as well. So they're a little bit of a one-off cost. So even though you might make some profit, you probably lose a lot of that in your setup costs for your first year, but that's just the cost of starting a business. Bricks and mortar businesses, go and fit out a shop and see how much that costs you. You'd be up for a couple of $100,000, or if you take on a franchise, sometimes the fees are $400,000 before you open the store.
Be a tradesman and have to go buy specialist tools.
Yeah, tools. So I think that people have just got to realise that you've got to put some money into this as a setup cost, and whether you say to yourself, I'll take that back over 3 years and build that in, or whether you're happy just to forget about it. But to me, at the end of the day, when it comes to the tax man, those expenses aren't part of your you wouldn't have made a profit if you take those out. So you've got to think of it that way. So I think you've just got to just make sure that you've got enough money in there to make some money a little bit for your reward for the first year. You don't want to be doing it just to make Jeff richer.
Right. Okay, also a reminder to everyone that we have this coming up this week. So if you're in Asia or Australia, it's going to be Friday and Saturday morning. If you're joining us from the US, it's going to be Thursday and Friday evening for you guys. So if you're in our Facebook group, then check out the timings. And there are posts in the Facebook group that you can go in there. Just click on Get Reminder on the post. You'll receive a notification from Facebook when we are going to go live. got a couple very exciting suppliers this time. A couple of suppliers are coming back. So we've got Alicia's International that does very, very beautiful hand beaded products, cushion covers, Christmas decorations. They're really awesome products. So they are coming back with a new range of products. And then we've also got a couple of I'm just opening up my sheet over here. We've got one of the leading home furnishing suppliers from Panipat. They're one of the biggest and oldest companies over there, huge range of products. And we've done home furnishings in the past, but this is a similar kind of company from Panipat, but they've got a better variety. We've also got Vinita Mpex coming back with some metal and wood products. Then we've got a backpack supplier, Menrico, who we featured in the past, and they are coming back with some new designs as well. And a very, very interesting supplier that we are going to be featuring for the first time is a supplier making leather garments. We haven't done a supplier making leather garments previously. Most of our leather suppliers that we featured on VIS, they either do bags or wallets or other types of products, fashion products, but we haven't really featured a garment supplier. So this should be very interesting. And this is, again, a very large company based in Noida. Very excited about this company for sure. Cool. And let's see if there's any other comments before we sign up. EBCH, the virtual buyer-seller meet platform, is live now. Yes, so if you go to the EBCH Facebook page, you should be able to see some posts over there about this buyer-seller meet. Or if you're registered with them, you should be receiving emails. And so this is basically, they help you contact or meet with suppliers specifically. It's sort of like a mini sourcing show, I guess. You can book a call with them. So this is about Avask. Thank you. Opal says thank you. Okay, cool. So I think, that's it from us. Kevin, Mark, anything else before we wrap up?
Oh, I don't think so. Except the Christmas decorations. If you're going to go with those, I'd be watching because it'd be a good time to get that order in if you want those on track for Q4 because we're running out of time.
Good timing. Yeah.
Good timing. Yeah. Good timing
this is the timing. And if you delay further, then you're going to, get late because production does take time in India. And you want to make sure that you're, you've got your product specifications and quality requirements and everything in place before you place your order. And that does take time. So this is the right time to start placing orders for your Christmas.
Well, I think anyone who's gone, if you're procrastinating now.
Exactly. And for anyone, keep reaching out with your requests for, different products you might be looking for, and we can just, search with our magic wand and see what we can come up for you. We can't sometimes, pick someone out of the, just straight away. But we do have contacts and we do have people. We have grown a lot of contacts now. So, if you're specifically looking for something, let Megla, Marg, and myself know, and we can certainly sort of look into our contact lists, or we can, put our, eyes and ears out there to sort of find something that you might be looking for.
Yes, and I think too, if you're sitting on the shelf looking for a product, procrastinating, don't procrastinate any longer if you want it live before Christmas, because if you haven't
now's the time
for your first order, if you haven't virtually got that in and working on a sample now, you are going to almost miss the boat, because by the time first order always takes the longest, because you've got to work out your designs, your packaging, samples, and you've got everything, samples, it all takes longer. Your second order is quicker. So if you're sitting on the fence, if you haven't got your order in now, you are going to struggle to get that into Amazon for like October, November. So I think, anyone who's thinking about it, you better jump on now or wait till next year.
Wow.
Yeah, and there are lots of products out there. I mean, sometimes people struggle with finding a product to sell, but there are so many different products. But I think what people need to avoid is getting into niches that are already very competitive and that are very saturated. Yes, and I do see some people in our group, looking for those kinds of products, and you should definitely, reconsider your product choices. Make sure that you have a product that's not saturated. There's still demand for it on Amazon. because otherwise you're just going to be losing money, running PPC.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, awesome. Well, thank you everybody for joining us. Raj, thank you so much for sticking around.
Yeah.
And we will see you on Friday.
Yeah.
Cool. All right.
Yeah.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye, everyone. Bye.